You're listening to the Game Tenants Podcast.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Game Tenants Podcast, the failed adventures of two gamers and their quest for Gamecast stardom. This is episode 35, and I am one of your hosts, Church of the Game Grinder, as always, joined by my excellent co-host,
Jason from Corpse Flood Gaming. What up?
Yes, so we got some pretty exciting stuff to talk about today, of course, and it's pretty predictable. Everybody and the mother is pretty much talking about E3 right now. I can't even really go on YouTube because everybody's making the same videos.
Did that happen? Did I miss that?
You might have.
Shit. I'll have to start looking at this stuff.
Yeah, right.
Jokes I couldn't keep away. I was at work not working because I was keeping up on this shit.
Yeah. So before we get to E3, of course, we're going to do our usual bit of what we've been up to for the last couple weeks. So what have you been up to, man?
Absolutely nothing fun or cool for the most part.
A little bit of work.
A lot of bit of work. I've been doing double duty super hard lately. The game room's coming together more. An update from last time. I've got my shelves just about ready to go up, which will declutterize this room in a jiff. But besides that, I've been getting games for some reason, and that reason is I intend to eventually have time to play something. So that's about it for me. What do you got going on? Hopefully something way more interesting than what I've got going on.
Not a ton. So just non-gaming related. I'd mentioned before about closing on the townhouse. I have closed on my townhouse now, so I am now a homeowner. So that's pretty exciting, though. It's going to be a couple months before I can kind of go buck wild with home improvement stuff and changing the game room. So that's kind of a drag, but, I'll get there.
You'll get there right when I get to start playing games.
Right.
So will it be a celebration for the ages?
Yeah. But gaming-wise, so I'm still playing a lot of Friday the 13th. Like, I've tried to taper off this last week, but I still find myself like, I can squeeze in a game or two before I go to bed.
Yeah, so you're not trying, but you're trying to try.
Yeah, I'm trying to try. And I played a little bit of the Overwatch anniversary event, mostly just to get some skins, which I got a few.
Gots to get them skins.
Kind of, the way I see it is, I didn't necessarily have the time to play Overwatch to get them sweet skins, so I kind of took the cop-out route and bought a few loot crates.
Oh, the shame.
Bought a few, spent a few bucks, but that's okay.
It's all right.
Totally worth it.
We've all been there.
And then just the other day, when I decided to try to move on from Friday the 13th, I sat down and played through Little Nightmares on the PS4.
Awesome.
Which is a pretty cool game. I haven't played a lot of the kind of like indie platformers, like puzzler games, kind of like Limbo and stuff. But that's really essentially kind of what it's like. Is there's a little bit more interactability with the environments instead of just
it seemed like a 2.5D, rather than just a straight platforms.
Yep, and there's a little bit of puzzling involved. Nothing terribly complex. Usually, it's just environmental things like you need to
cut the rope to open the door.
Yeah, basic stuff like that. Some of it kind of took a few minutes to figure out. Like there's a few moments. Of course, a lot of these games they'll throw in like creatures that you have to get by, and a few times it took me a few tries to figure out what to do. But overall, thought it was a lot of fun. Really short. It's like 4 hours long, like almost on the nose.
That's how I hear. It's a really short but really enjoyable experience.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same
need those
time,
once in a while.
The collector's edition that I got, the physical collector's edition, I think, if I remember correctly, it was only $30.
Damn.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, I'd imagine digitally it's probably even cheaper. It might have been more. I can't remember exactly.
Well, for the collector's edition was probably like a $10 more, but I bet you it was only like a $20 game then.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then I have finally started on Horizon Zero Dawn. I played it for a couple hours last night. Didn't beat it. It's a little longer than a couple hours, but got a pretty good feel for the game. I kind of like how they started it off, like introducing the characters and like how like some of the things, basic story introduction. I'm not very far. I just started like the first part of like, okay, here, go do stuff. So we'll see how it pans out. It's kind of readjusting. Like every time I play a console, like third person game, I have to like readjust because it seems like these days when you play like these third person games, like even think like Gears of War, like the characters just seem like they're so close to the camera.
Yeah.
They take up like half the screen, and it's kind of like you got to get used to it. Like
the over the shoulder.
Yeah, I want it to be zoomed out just a little bit more.
Sometimes you can do that with a camera, like the D-pad will have like a maybe like close, far
sometimes
away, but that game not so much.
Not that I figured out anyway so far.
Oh, okay.
But I'm looking forward to playing more, which I will definitely probably play a little bit this weekend. Hopefully, I got tomorrow night's mostly free, and then I'll have a little time on Saturday, and yeah.
Well, I'm hoping to have all day. I have all day Sunday off. I'm hoping to knock my shelving needs out, get them all up, and then maybe I'll start some gaming.
Yeah.
The only gaming I've done lately is nothing anybody wants to hear about. As I showed you the other day, Araya and I were playing some games in the game room once we got my one shelving unit with all the consoles on it set up, and she was just like, "Can I play my game?" So I was helping her beat Monster High 13 Wishes, and it was the least enjoyable game I've played in a long time, and that's including the bad game beatdown games. But
most of those games weren't that bad. Oh,
they're actually pretty decent.
Definitely worth mentioning that if anybody hasn't seen, myself and Corpse Club both have part 1 and part 2. Well, I have part 1, he has part 2 of a bad game beatdown video combo that we did, a little collab that when I went up and visited him, we played through some bad games, about 15 minutes for each game, just for funsies and kind of
little competitions, squaring off, and games that we've never played, because I thought that would be kind of a fun idea. Like, hey, these games look kind of bad, but they're 2-player, and you can't have a truly terrible time playing a 2-player game, I don't think. But we tried to find the worst of the stuff that was in my game room anyway, and 2-player it up.
Yeah. So check it out if you haven't. Of course, go to our channels and you'll see them there. But yeah,
we'll definitely have to get some more of those up soon. That was fun.
Yes, for sure. So I guess then with that said, we could probably just jump right into it. So of course, most of you are probably already aware E3 happened, and we're just going to talk about E3 in general. We're going to talk about some games, maybe talk about some moments, what we liked, what we didn't like, what's cool, what's weird, so on and so forth.
I like when that guy came out and he's like, "Hey dudes, video games."
Like that Jesse Wellens, the YouTube content creator that got like horribly struck with like stage fright or something.
Yeah, hey, so this is a good game, man. Yeah.
Or, no, he comes out, he's like, I'm Jesse Wellens. I'm a YouTube content creator. For Need for Speed. And yeah. So first of all,
like they
who
just
fucks
sprang
Jesse
it on him.
Wellens? Like, why is this guy coming out and talking?
Coming out like you're like, you know me, and then all of a sudden
second of all,
the ball, shit in his
I looked
pants.
up this guy, and he's a fucking prank channel.
Well, he didn't say gaming content to his credit.
Yeah, he said YouTube
create
creator.
content. It's like, dude, you do those like little toy unboxing videos. where you play with
man.
like trolls toys and just nothing even related to gaming. But sure, you can be on E3.
Yeah, that was these PR teams. I really like. I just like stop having PR teams and like why don't you just actually like recruit people who actually like play video games to like maybe.
Oh man, I liked Mario Brothers at one time. I played it.
Zelda's
my favorite hero.
I wish Zelda was a girl.
She'd be hot, I bet. Yeah, just so dumb. And I don't know. I almost feel like it's like the MTV Music Awards. You know how there's always some big incident where you're like they stage that to get some attention.
Yeah,
I'm sure at some point they must be like, let's just get this idiot out there
who
just embarrasses himself, because then people will be like, at the freaking EA booth, this guy always just shit in the bed, and everyone's gonna be like, I gotta check that out. So then it draws more attention. Maybe it draws more viewers to their something they might have otherwise.
You know, that's a good point. He is a prank channel. Who knows? It could have been fake. Could have been fake.
That would have been a boring prank video too. Just watch me totally throw a wrench in the gears of E3, guys. Hey, here I go.
But I will say overall, like as far as presentations go, like I didn't watch many of the presentations, honestly, like to any extent. But I always, every year it's a yearly tradition after E3, I gotta look up them cringe compilations. And actually, it wasn't that bad this year. Like,
Jesse, he sent me a couple of them. They're like, he was like the funniest part, but like most of it was just kind of like missed high fives and just basically just awkward white guys being awkward white guys, and of course, Japanese people are always gonna have to be dubbed over. That's nothing new. Like, and that's not even really a fail. You're like, sorry, I'd rather them be dubbed over than when they come out and when they talk and you can't understand what the hell they're saying. But you're like, they tried, but I have no idea what he was saying. Like, I'm glad that we're at a point where they dubbed them over rather than just they come out and you're like, he only knows like 8 words.
They didn't dub over Shigeru. And like I was like, okay.
Well, they did it after a while when they were presenting that.
Did they?
The Mario and the Rabbids thing.
Okay.
He came out and he was like, "We are very excited about this game." Is pretty much what he said, and then they just kind of dubbed him over after that. Or not really dubbed him, but they had like his translator basically say it.
Gotcha. But yeah, so E3 is pretty exciting. Lots of great excitement, new updates, announcements. So on and so forth.
I had the same tradition of watching the cringe videos, so I'm glad you hooked me up and I didn't have to look for them this year. It's just as much of a tradition as watching the Black Friday riot videos every year. Just like who got killed for a waffle iron this year?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, it's just you want to be disgusted with the human race a little bit, so you watch the Black Friday riot videos. You're like, oh my god, for a waffle iron, really?
Yeah. So before we actually jump into E3 and what was shown and kind of talk about some of that stuff, I want to kind of start out with maybe pouring a 40 on the curb for our missing brothers who did make an appearance at E3.
Yeah.
Couple games that were kind of surprised we didn't see anything about whatsoever. I
was super surprised by a few of these things. Like for one, Death Stranding wasn't there at all.
Not at all, but I think at this point, they probably don't have enough where they could do a gameplay demo, and they've already shown us 2 like cinematic trailers. So it kind of makes sense that they don't give us another cinematic trailer, and hopefully next year we can actually see something.
Yeah, I thought it would be something. I was actually just thinking more like it would be something small, and then they have a release date or something like that.
I think it's still probably like 2 years out at least.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, it was something I was actually just expecting to see.
Yeah. I would probably say one of my biggest surprises was the lack of Red Dead 2.
Yeah.
Because
they showed next to nothing on that game. Besides like a couple screenshots, really.
Yeah, and like I think a lot of people are super hyped, and it would have been nice to maybe see a little bit more, because we had that first teaser, and then they kind of gave us like gameplay cinematic trailer. That was the
Yeah.
last one that they just gave like a few weeks ago. Or is
Oh,
that
yeah.
one?
Going back to what we said before about when we're going to get a game, we don't really follow it. To be
Yeah.
honest, that's a game I'm getting. So even if there was a trailer, I would have only watched it for reference of doing the podcast.
Pretty much.
I mean, I'd obviously be interested while watching it, but like I said, I generally stay away so the hype doesn't eat me alive from the inside.
Right.
Thankfully, though, as much as I like Xbox, they didn't shove a new Halo down our throats, which was great. I don't mind the Halo games. I play them. I actually haven't played the last two. Besides Halo Wars, I haven't played the last two main series games. But I don't absolutely hate them. But it just seems like almost like a yearly thing. Just about they got to get some sort of Halo thing out.
Yeah.
And this year they didn't announce it at all. So maybe they're giving Chief a bit of a break.
Well, and Halo Wars 2 just came out recently, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they put them back to back though.
I
I actually want to play Halo Wars 2, which is funny because I really enjoyed the first one. I'm not huge on RTS games, but I think we talked about this before. I really liked the first one, so that's pretty much
a great game.
That's pretty much how hyped I'm gonna get for Halo. When they announced that, I was pretty hyped. But a new main series game, I'm good. I got other stuff I need to play. So thanks for not making me get another one. I just have to put in the backlog for years.
Right.
But from a sad point of Microsoft franchises, I'm a little bummed I didn't hear anything about a new Gears of War, because they could put out a new Gears of War every 6 months and I would be equally as hyped. Because I really enjoyed the newest one. Was a cool step in the right direction of a new team and all that, and left on kind of a cool cliffhanger. So I look forward to another one. I mean, it's not that old, so they don't have to get it out. But
sure,
I'm always game for more Gears.
Yeah, I'd imagine we'll probably definitely see a Halo and a Gears at next E3.
Or if not before then.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of big conventions coming up.
Yeah,
anyways.
I mean, the PSX is coming up pretty soon. They were hinting at that. It was one of their Sony's pre-game things where they were talking about their location of the new next PSX. I believe that's what it's called, isn't it? PSX.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think they'll probably show more of their fleshed out things that they kind of hinted at E3.
Yeah.
So that's why they probably held out on a bit of that.
Yeah, and then two games that I'm not super surprised we didn't see at E3, but I'm kind of bummed. There'll probably be something that would be at PSX or more, maybe even more so the Tokyo Game Show. Mm-hmm. First one being Resident Evil 2 Remake. We still don't have any information. They are working on it.
Why couldn't they have given us a logo trailer?
Give me a logo. Give
me that logo and be like, yeah, you remember this. It's coming out again.
Basically, just say, yeah, it's a thing. It's it's happening in some way, shape, or form.
Because they basically said they're doing it, but they haven't even given us a teaser, which would be great.
Yeah. So who knows? And then, of course, Final Fantasy VII, which I'm not terribly surprised about, especially with the recent news that Square Enix was outsourcing the work on Final Fantasy VII, and in the last, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It was right before the last podcast, I think.
They turned around and said that, we're gonna work on this. So they absorbed that team or whatever, and
moved it in house or whatever they call that.
Yeah, so it's probably, unfortunately, it's a long ways out.
Yeah, it's a bummer, but like we said before,
do it right.
The longer they work on a game, the hopefully better they're making it. So
yes.
I'd rather wait for a good game than get one now that sucks.
Yeah, and then the last two here missing from E3. One that I kind of thought was going to make some sort of appearance just because I was hearing rumors. I mean, internet rumors, you got to take them with a grain of salt and stuff. But, sometimes sometimes you never know. And the first one being something from Dragon Age. It's been a few years now.
What, like 3-4 years since Inquisition came out?
Yep, 3 years, right?
I think
3
at
years.
least 3 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years. So.
And the one that I kind of predicted was the next one. Yeah.
And that's Knights of the Old Republic or something related.
Yeah, because I figured, since they announced that BioWare was kind of ramping down on the Mass Effect, putting it on the back burner for a while, I was like, that gives them plenty of time to work on a KOTOR game.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the EA thing started and they announced Anthem, which looks pretty badass, but I'm sure we'll get more into.
Mhm.
I was like, all right, they're busy. Never mind.
Yeah. And actually, that kind of like leads into the bulk of E3 releases, and kind of one of the first ones that also Bethesda, BioWare, or no, not Bethesda, sorry, BioWare, Anthem. So new IP from BioWare.
And one of the coolest looking new IPs that were featured, I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely need to see more. So kind of the vibe, what it is, it's a sci-fi third-person shooter,
Open
game,
world, like kind of action.
World. Yeah,
they said action open world RPG, but I didn't see enough RPG element to actually call it an RPG.
Yeah,
but
from the trailer, I really got like almost like a Destiny sort of vibe. It seemed really militaristic, which I'm kind of iffy about because I'm not the like straight up like
military shooter,
military setting. Kind of like gung ho, hoorah. Yeah. It's not really my cup of tea, but it's BioWare, and as I've said before, much with Mass Effect Andromeda, much with Dragon Age Inquisition, Dragon Age 2, and pretty much every other BioWare game, they never do me wrong, and they always make great games. And the story, we know nothing of the story really besides basically the premise, which is they're on an alien world. There's like a giant wall that humanity has set up, like their colony, and then they're like exploring this hostile planet for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, the part that really speaks to me is the what looks like fully customizable like suits. When they showed the teaser at the EA thing, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, you literally could have told me this was a teaser for Titanfall 3.
Yes.
And I would have believed you. I was like,
yes.
Oh, I had no opinion either way. I think I was talking to you and I said that. I'm like, could be cool, but I have no opinion either way. I'm just hyped a little bit. I get that little sprinkle of hype just because it's BioWare. Like, okay, I want to see more. Betcha it's cool. I just have no opinion yet. And then the next day, they put up the actual trailer for it, and it was pretty cool. I really like these customizable suits. It's kind of like almost like an Iron Man workshop. It looks like you pick what kind of turret you want on your shoulder or what kind of like headpiece you want, and it just looks cool. It looks like something I could really get into. Not exactly mechs, but I'd say more like an Iron Man suit.
Right.
But from the teaser, it looked like it was like a mech or like a Titan.
Yes.
Specifically, which is why I was like, okay, Titanfall 3.
Yeah, and that's why I need to see more, because it's like it's very military looking, and I know whatever, some CEO or some guy at BioWare was, before the game was announced, there was like they were talking, they're like, oh yeah, this next game we're working on, we're gonna change the face of this genre that we're doing. So they're claiming that they're doing something different here. So
yeah, it looks cool. Like the flying looks really cool, and actually keeping with the Iron Man theme, it really reminded me of like Iron Man flying.
Yeah,
which is like cool. I mean, a lot of people ragged on the Iron Man games from the movies, but they were decent. They weren't totally terrible. I had fun with them. The second one was like a afternoon game. Like you just beat the game in an afternoon.
Sure.
So I wouldn't, like I said before, I define a game by how much I paid for it and how much I felt like I got my money's worth. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I was Iron Man in those games, and this looks like it'll do it better. So I'll get my Iron Man fix out of this game. Yeah. Is there anything else to say about
Nope.
Anthem. I think it's a pretty standout thing overall.
Yeah, for sure.
Next up, they were talking about A Way Out was another standout one from the EA conference.
Yeah, very very cool looking game to me, and not like necessarily graphically. I like the aesthetic of the game, but a very interesting sounding concept of you're playing as a couple guys doing a prison or planning a prison break, and the game is constantly in split screen where you can see what both people are doing at all times. I would be interested to know how well it's going to work if you don't play multiplayer.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it like makes you play co-op, because someone was telling me, I didn't like get to read up on it as much, but I watched the trailers and stuff, and where they were talking about it, and no one seemed to say like you could play with like a AI partner.
Yeah.
Otherwise, or maybe you can switch back and forth between them.
Not saying that's not
Like
not saying
Lost
it's a
Vikings
bad
type.
thing,
Yeah.
because I think a lot of times, like especially like Friday the 13th, like that's a game that I just don't think is going to work too well with AI, allies. But it's always a concern,
Yeah.
initially, especially. But a lot we're kind of getting accustomed to the always online sort of thing. But when it comes to consoles, like I don't pay for the subscription services, so that's a big turnoff. But potentially being an EA game, PC port, good chance. I don't remember if they said there was a PC port of it.
No, they said you're gonna have to get an Xbox One.
I was gonna say they could fuck off, but it's the choice I make.
Yeah, I'm glad there's actually like a really cool, like it seems like it's encouraging couch co-op, which I really like. It's a dwindling thing in today's games, so I'm really glad to have more options like that, because it's not often I get to have a buddy over to play games, but it'd be cool to have a new game to suggest.
Yes. Yeah.
So definitely looking forward to that at some point.
Yeah. So then, I guess kind of sticking with Microsoft, then there was the Microsoft presentation, and of course they were trying to sling me the new Xbox One X, which
You bet.
I don't love the name,
Well,
but then again, I'm not like
it's better than S.
I'm not a moron, so I can understand. I can look at a thing and be like, okay, there's an Xbox One, there's the Xbox One S, and there's Xbox One X. And then you look at the boxes, and then they state like the differences, and then you're like, oh, okay, so this one is the budget version, or this one's the high-end version. And then I make an informed decision. I hear a lot of people like, oh, it's too confusing. It doesn't say what it is. Well, don't be a
Research slightly what you're thinking of buying.
If you're going to spend $400 on a video game system, you should probably know what you're buying.
Yeah. Some people don't actually buy it themselves, though, so they don't really care.
Yeah.
Just buy me the Xbox.
But yeah, so I mean, I think most of us probably already know about the Xbox One X.
Yeah.
It's basically just, the higher end Xbox, more hardware.
Most powerful console of all time.
Yeah. 4K, yada yada, so on and so forth.
How many teraflops, though?
Teraflops. Yeah, and that's one thing that I think they focus too much on the specs. They're worried about confusing people with the name, but then they're going to talk about specs for 10 minutes.
Well, that's just like when they unveiled the Xbox in general, and all they talked about was the sports apps and the games.
Yeah, TV sports.
You can have a fantasy football league and this and that, and you can watch TV on it. I'm like, I don't need to hook it.
I will say, since they've announced it, I've seen some discussions of people who are like, well, who is this for? And it's for anybody who wants the best out of their gaming. Like,
the resolution junkies and the frame rate.
I will say, honestly, right now, I do very much want a PS4 Pro. Like, there are games that I have played that would benefit, and it would improve my experience. Some people don't care if they have a 30 frame rate locked game. I do, because I'm I prefer the highest quality I can get as a guy who, I want 1080 on my TV, or, I want to do Blu-rays, and I want, nice audiophile headphones. For someone who cares overall about the maximum quality of the experience I can receive from the hardware I'm using, especially being a PC gamer where I have fine-tuned machines, like I think they definitely have a place, and I think the benefits for the people who care are definitely there. And
definitely.
And I think in the end it's a good thing, because these will get cheaper. They'll phase out the old ones. The new ones will be, a higher quality product. And
definitely. Well, it's just like, for me, it's just like, maybe when my Xbox dies, I don't feel the need to as long as my Xbox plays all the games, I don't need the new one. Yeah. But when mine dies, I probably won't buy another of the regular one, or the S. I'll obviously just go, all right, well, I'll pick up the X.
Totally, yeah. And I'd say I don't care about 4K. I don't have a 4K TV. I'm not a Blu-ray guy at this time. Most of my movies I rent digitally, or DVDs are fine, but I still like to have that 1080. When
it's definitely understandable.
I'm not complaining, but like something like Mass Effect, Andromeda, or even The Last Guardian, which I thought ran pretty much just fine on the consoles. There were times when they'd kind of chug a little bit. Didn't ruin my experience by any means. Other people have like one instance where a game dips below 30 FPS, and like, oh, worst game ever made. But those things would be less of an issue. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing, because
I'm definitely not ripping on it. I'm just saying it's nothing I need now.
Right.
But I definitely understand why they were doing it.
Yeah.
As always, that'd be like hating the new generation coming out because why do I need better graphics? That's pretty much like the same kind of thing. Like, if you're set up if you got a 4K TV, you definitely should be going for these. Like, it's whereas like the PS4 Pro, if you don't have a 4K, is pretty much pointless. I would say, I wouldn't want to say completely pointless, but I mean, the processing power is better and all that, but you're not going to notice the resolution as much unless you have a 4K TV, which is the same with the Xbox One. It'll run faster, it'll process faster, you'll get less, you'll have the locked frame rates. So it's definitely a good thing.
Yeah.
It's nothing I'm rushing out to buy, because it'll be $600 in Canada.
Yeah.
So not right away. Maybe Christmas.
Yeah, maybe. And then they've added some more backwards compatibility.
Yeah, the original Xbox, which is a thing.
Yeah.
If you don't have an original Xbox and you still have the games, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I'm one of those guys, like, my original Xbox is, I don't have a measuring tape on me, but 2 feet away from my Xbox One. It's not an issue for me, but some people don't want 30 consoles bundled around their TV. So
and I've been a strong proponent for many, many years. My opinion has never changed. I'm still pissed off at Sony for not having backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 3, all models, and not having backwards compatibility on the PlayStation 4. Like, as I always say, if my PC can emulate these games, there is absolutely no reason the consoles can't, because it's software. When they want to say it's hardware, I will argue with that. And I think all consoles should be backwards compatible, because that was such a huge selling point for the PlayStation 2. Yeah. That was a big selling point for the Wii for me, even though it took me for a long time to get a Wii, but being able to play GameCube on the Wii, like, fuck yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's good to see that. I know there's I had shared the article. I believe you checked it out. It was the PlayStation or the Sony executive that said that,
who wants that shit, basically?
Yeah, why would you want to play old games? Only 2% of people will say that they want backwards compatibility.
Well, the other people are thinking it then. Yeah.
You know, and it's not a lot of work for them to do that. There's no reason for it.
Yeah, it's basically not a big issue. It's like you might as well. You might as well do it.
Let's do it for prosperity.
It can't be that. It can't be that hard.
Yeah.
If the Xbox One, what are we at now? 4 or 5 years into 4 years? Is it 4 years old now?
Right around there.
If they can add the original Xbox this far into the game, like the ability was always there.
Yeah.
So, what's the excuse with Sony? Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's silly stuff. But I think we can start talking about some games. So we got a lot of games to talk about.
I'm always down to talk about games.
Got a lot of games to talk about. Not a lot of time.
Small handful. Yeah.
So we'll kind of just
maybe we'll have to rapid fire a couple of these.
So we just got a little list here, so we'll just kind of go through the list and share some of our thoughts on some of these games. No particular order by any means, and then we got some kind of like final thoughts and favorite picks from E3 that we'll talk about after we talk about all the games.
So definitely stay tuned for that.
Yes. So first one here on the docket is Metro Exodus, which is the sequel to Metro
Last Light.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the sequel, which is a series I haven't played, unfortunately, but I hear they're really good games.
You haven't played none of them, really?
None of them.
Oh,
I think I might have pirated the original Metro like years ago to check it out, and I just never did.
The guilt got you.
I haven't went back to play them, but I will say they've always looked really cool, and this one is no exception.
Yeah, I have played actually both of them.
Oh, sweet.
I own when Metro 2033 originally came out. It was when my wife still managed the movie gallery.
Okay.
So I was kind of iffy on it and just ended up grabbing it as a free rental, and I actually really got into it. I loved it. I'm a sucker for the post-apocalyptic stuff,
yes.
And in a completely different setting than Fallout. It was really cool in the Russian underground, like subway tunnels and stuff.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people that are big fans of the Stalker game, the Stalker Chernobyl or whatever. This is kind of like a very light version. Like the Stalker games have kind of more of like an open world-ish, almost like a Elder Scrolls or Fallout sort of deal. But
yeah, these were kind of
more condensed.
Limited. Like you couldn't go out certain places because I think you couldn't breathe. You needed tanks of air, so you had to kind of keep by where there were tanks of air and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the first one. I played through it. I think there's different endings. I remember playing through a bunch of it a couple of times, like because you could go back and kind of chapter select or maybe area select in it. And then Last Light, I ended up getting it pretty cheap right after it came out, maybe like 3 months after it came out.
Sure.
And I got a decent amount of play in it, but something distracted me, like a shiny trinket. Shiny new game. So I never got all the way through it, but what I did play that was an improvement over the first one. Like they really put a lot of cool stuff into it. I really should go back to it. And actually, once I got my PS4, a friend of mine was selling off a bunch of his PS4 stuff. I don't know if he was getting rid of like it all to get an Xbox or what, but I ended up getting the Metro Redux, which is both. Oh, nice. Both of them for the PS4. So that's cool. So maybe if I jump back into it, I'll just jump back into it on PS4 and see what they think, see how much better it looks and whatnot.
And I will say, I do not want to ever hear any other trailer for any movie or game use the 28 Days Later like main theme. Like I'm so sick of hearing that. In the trailer, I don't know, for anybody who's not familiar, 28 Days Later, one of the best, even though it's not not technically, it's not a zombie movie, but I put it in with the zombie genre. One of the best.
I would too.
Zombie movies like all time, and they used a certain music score that has since been used in like so many things. And every time I hear it, I'm like, you lazy bastards. Just come up with something else.
Yeah, it's getting pretty overused. It's getting almost as overused as Blom. Blom.
Yeah, totally.
Blom. Every time something's giant or
and so many of the games we're going to talk about
did exactly that. Yeah. Yes, they did. But
the Inception Blom.
Before we move on from that, I am very excited for Metro Exodus. It's been a while, so I'm looking forward to another one of that.
Yeah, for sure.
And speaking of one I'm not so super excited about, but still looks kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Assassin's Creed has come back with another title after a year off from their yearly iteration model.
Yeah.
They
took a little break.
With Assassin's Creed Origins.
Yeah.
This time with an Egyptian setting.
I think the setting looks pretty cool.
Yeah, that's about all I can say about it. Is there's not enough games really set in Egypt, so from that standpoint, it looks interesting. But
I will say I am super tired of hearing Origins.
Yeah, it's a real cop out.
Like
the beginning and Origins is just like their way of saying, yeah, start with this one if you haven't already played the other.
Like the one game that I really like, and people might say I'm biased. BioWare, Dragon Age, yeah, Dragon Age Origins. That being the first game they released, I'm more okay with that than them having the series and then going back and doing a prequel. And like people aren't. I mean,
but they didn't actually need to, because actually that confused me when I saw the first trailer for that. I was like, Origins, I've never heard of Dragon Age, and I had to look it up. Like, what? It must be PC games, because I've never heard of Dragon Age. And I looked it up, and I was like, all I was finding was Dragon Age Origins. I was like, you didn't need to do that then.
Yes. But yeah, another Assassin's Creed. I know that I've heard a lot of people are excited about it.
Well, it's just hard to break away because it's about a certain thing, so they can't really completely break away from it.
Right.
So it's always gonna have a struggle with being really samey as the other ones. So that's about all I can say about it. I'm pretty burnt out on the series just existing in general. They could have taken a decade off, and I would have been like, okay.
Yeah, they've really overdone it. But it's never been a series I really got into myself. So
I didn't get into the first one. I didn't like it. I only plowed through it, like I said before, because I was pretty. I don't know. The third one just looked really good to me out of nowhere, and it was about to come out. I said I'm not buying it because I own the other 4 that are already out, and if I don't play those, I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
And I plowed through the first one. It got really repetitive, and then the second one was actually a really good game, and got into Brotherhood, and I burnt out on them altogether, and I haven't been back. But I did end up getting 3, and 4. And every other one. I own all of them, but it's only because they come with stuff that I don't really go out of my way. They're a dirt cheap game, kind of like a Call of Duty game to me, where I don't know, $10, yeah, I'll grab it, whatever. But they're not a game I'm going to be pre-ordering or buying day one or even close to it.
For sure. So then the next couple games I don't really have a whole lot to say about that. They looked kind of interesting. There was one called the Darwin Project, which is kind of like a Hunger Games, the game sort of deal.
It looked pretty cool.
That had a weird, like really forced announcer that was like doing a cast of the gameplay. I thought that was kind of strange.
Yeah, it was kind of loud. Pretty loud guy too.
And I mean, especially when nobody knows what the hell you're talking about. Like, how are we supposed to get excited? Because he was like super excited, and I don't know, whatever. But then Deep Rock Galactic, I thought looked pretty interesting. It is a 4-player co-op game. You play as like dwarves. It's kind of like a sci-fi setting, and you're like, I'm not entirely sure of the concept, but there's a lot of like blasting through the floors and walls, kind of like a constant digging mechanic as you're fighting off like swarms of creatures and whatnot.
It kind of reminded me of the first Red Faction in a way, almost, where you could just blow holes in the wall, and that was like the big draw.
Yeah, and this is like almost like entirely like I know you're not constantly doing that. There's like mines and stuff you're exploring, but I thought it looked interesting. I'll be interested to see more about it down the road.
Yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on it.
Yeah.
Also, they announced going from a super original idea to a kind of played out genre, but a sequel to a pretty cool addition to that genre, which was State of Decay. With the second one, they announced it a little bit, I think a few days, maybe a week before E3, but it looks cooler. It's supposed to be, I think, 3 areas to it, which are all apparently bigger than the original game. So I look forward to seeing more of that. I mean, like
world zombie survival game.
Yeah, it seems like a genre that's a dime a dozen, but there's the certain standout games that do it really well. And I think State of Decay 1 did it really well. They had the kind of survivors. If they died, they stayed dead. You didn't just respawn. You had to be somebody else from the little settlement, and you had to round people up, kind of like a Dead Rising style. But when you rounded them up, they could potentially be who you come back as if you die. Yeah, I like that, and like the finite resource thing that they did in that was really had you conserving everything and not just running around slaughtering everything until your weapons break, because then you're SOL pretty much. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. Did you ever end up playing the first? Did you ever end up playing the first one?
No, I never did. I've heard. I would say I've more heard positive things, but I know there's a lot of people that just don't like those kind of games or don't like zombie games. But I hear it's supposed to be a really cool game.
Yeah, I'm pretty reluctant to try anything zombie related because it's just such an overrated genre in general. Like you're just like, oh yeah, wow, you threw zombies in that game. It looks so original.
Yeah, as a person who like absolutely like adores zombie things, like me even too. I'm kind of thinking. Like some of like more so these survival games, like I mean, there's so many of them, and they're all very samey. You know, of course, you had DayZ, and then there was Warzy and State of Decay, and
you got the Dead Risings, the Dead Islands, the Dying Lights, and a lot of those games. The little ones I mentioned are all great games. Yeah, and they're the standouts, but there's also 10 crappy zombie games to each one good one. Yeah, and that also goes for the movies. So it's just a part of being a fan of zombies. Yeah. I'm making it sound like I'm tired of zombies and I hate them, but I think it's just the hype of The Walking Dead and stuff kind of just has killed the love a little bit. Like I
brought in the plebs.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just like it just seems like an easy cop out for a lot of games. Like the first game, like in a sequel, they'll just throw zombies in it, and you're like, is that really? That didn't even need to be in there. The first game was great the way it was.
Right.
Anyway, moving on.
The one of the games that I thought looked really freaking cool is a game called The Last Night, which is we didn't get a lot of information on it, or at least from what I seen from the main trailer. But it's basically, it looks like some sort of like side scroller, maybe like action adventure game. Insane pixel art, like crazy pixel art.
Yeah,
that instantly piqued my interest, especially when it blends in that like new retro wave music.
Yeah.
The very 80s retro like synth.
Like they've mastered the chiptune.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm pretty interested to see more about that game, just on visuals alone. Hopefully the gameplay stands up. I'm trying to remember the same people were making some other game. Oh yeah. We'll talk about it. I guess we don't need to talk about it later. We can talk about it now. The same guys who are making The Last Night are also making a game that I've been seeing some things here about. I don't think it was included at E3, but it's a game called Blasphemous, which we talked about a little bit before the podcast. Blasphemous is another. If you're familiar with the game Slain, back from hell. Basically, very Metroidvania, side scroller, crazy pixel, like metal,
Super
gory. Really looks sweet. So
It's
you know,
a
just
bloodbath.
even more excitement to the last night, knowing that they're making these two really cool looking games.
That's one genre they could just make a million of, and I'd still probably be just as excited.
Yeah,
It awakens the old school fan in me. And there's a couple of cool things being brought to the Xbox that are huge PC games right now too, and one of those is Black Desert Online.
Yeah, not many MMOs on the consoles besides some very like console specific MMOs.
Yeah, there's Neverwinter, there's DC Universe Online, there's Star Trek Online,
and
Destiny, yeah.
But not like a full on. Not many of the like big Korean MMOs are on consoles, and Black Desert I know has a pretty big following. I mean, I'm not much into the Korean MMOs on the surface. They look absolutely gorgeous with like some of the most in-depth character creators ever. You can make, you know, as many waifus as your heart could desire, but gameplay a lot of times seems very
limited and grindy.
Yeah, very grindy. And I'm not, especially MMO grind. Like that's, ooh.
That's, speaking of Destiny, that's what I just couldn't get into.
Yeah.
The second I started playing it, it was like grinding right away to do something. And I'm like, no, grinding is what you do after they've already made you enjoy the game. And I just couldn't get into it. Anyway, another big draw from the PC is a game I've been hearing a lot about. And I was just thinking, man, that looks like a lot of fun. I'd like to try it. Is the PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Yes.
Which started as a mod and then kind of it became its own game. I think they released it on Steam not too long ago as its own standalone game. And it just looks just like almost like a Mad Max Battle Royale style game where you just anything goes.
Yeah. It kind of takes the sort of like, in a way, I would compare it to games like DayZ or Rust, but instead of throwing you into this open world setting, they do that, but then on the map, all of a sudden it makes this giant circle, and that's the gameplay area. And after so many minutes, that gameplay area shrinks, and if you're outside the gameplay area, you take damage. So it forces people to converge, and you can't just have these like huge camp fests where it makes you duke it out, and last man standing wins, essentially.
You can't just hang out in the windmill and hide. Well, apparently you can still wait it out as long as you're in the circle until everyone else dies.
Right.
Which is the wimpiest tactic, but I guess whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, for sure. And then another game by the same people who made Gone Home, I believe, is Tacoma, which is not a lot of info, kind of a sci-fi first-person game, kind of a puzzler, walking sim, I'm assuming, very story-focused. It has some pretty unique-looking ideas, not entirely original, where like they can see kind of like digital ghosts of people from the past, and maybe that's how you gather story and piece together events of what's happened, but just something on the radar. And it's actually slated for August 2nd, so I would assume that there's probably some more gameplay videos out there, but I just haven't had the chance to look at them.
Some of these games are apparently coming out like right away. There's some that are coming out like mid-July, and I'm like, first I heard of it, and I'm pretty up on game stuff, so it makes me feel bad. For sure. Makes me feel like I'm not so up on games as I think I am. Speaking of it, the next game is a game we've been hearing a lot about, but I don't know a lot of people that are super excited about. They want us to be very excited for Sea of Thieves.
Yeah. I mean, it looks
pirate
cool.
game by Rare, which is pretty much only Rare in name. Rather, I'm pretty sure no one from the original Rare is really still there.
Yeah.
It does look funnish, but it's nothing that it's not really even on my radar. It's nothing. Nothing too big of a deal to me.
Same here.
Microsoft seems to be putting like a lot of eggs in this basket. Like it was like their game of the show almost.
Yeah.
That not overall, but I mean when they've talked about it before, it's like it's going to be the killer app. Where I'm not really seeing it. They have other exclusive games that speak to me a lot more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's about all I got to say about that. You got any thoughts on that game?
Nope. Not much.
Pretty much the same what I just said.
So then we got another trailer for Code Vein, which is the Bandai Namco sort of more actiony, potentially Dark Souls-ish.
Yeah, slightly more anime-ish.
Anime Dark Souls,
yeah.
Which I am very, very interested in. I really want to see more, and I hope it's going to be an awesome game because usually I'm not super crazy about like the anime-styled characters in video games, but every once in a while they can make them look super appealing to me, and Code Vein is definitely one of them.
Bandai Namco has been kind of killing it this gen from anything I've played or even anything I've wanted to play, and Koei Tecmo is doing a lot of that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of being excited for a game that's pretty much an exclusive, it's PC and Xbox exclusive. It's nothing particularly new, but we finally got some solid news on Cuphead.
Yes.
A game that's been in what seems like development hell because it was seeming like it was going to come out right away about 2-3 years ago, and they finally nailed down a release date for it being September 29th. If you're not familiar with Cuphead, it is a old-timey cartoon shooter / platformer that looks kind of like all the old 40s cartoons like Felix the Cat and things like that.
Steamboat Mickey.
Yeah, it's really cool looking.
Amazing.
It's something that's not been tapped into before, and it is really doing a good job of keeping in that like old Popeye cartoons and stuff like that. It's really captured my imagination. So it's something I've been looking forward to a long time, and I'm glad we're finally getting to see it come to the light of day pretty soon. I will be getting that probably day one. Hopefully they do some kind of physical release for it.
That's what I'm hoping for. Really hoping for it.
And speaking of another exclusive for the Xbox, it's a game that they kind of hinted at and then kind of just said, yeah, we're making it, but didn't really, they gave a little demo of it. I think it was last E3 or maybe it was even 2 E3s ago. Mm-hmm. But they've showed a new trailer and some more info on Crackdown 3, which comes out the day after my birthday on November 7th now. And Terry Crews was pretty much the over-the-top focal point of this trailer. Yeah. And I don't care because I love Terry Crews.
It's hard not to like Terry Crews.
He will make you if you don't. So you might as well just like Terry Crews.
Yeah.
Or he will bust you up. It was Crackdown is a both ways for me. The first one I didn't care for really at all. Mm-hmm. And the second one I really liked. I really got into. I'm not really up into any games where you gotta collect orbs and there's a million collectibles to grab. But at least in Crackdown, you're collecting them for a reason rather than just for an achievement or some concept art or whatever other games do. Everything you do makes your guy more powerful. You can jump higher. You can whatever. And I really wasn't into the idea of that, but Crackdown 2 had easier ways of getting everything, like hover boots and stuff like that. And there was just a lot of over-the-top fun weapons along the lines of Saints Row.
Yes.
So I am looking forward to the third one because apparently everything is destructible. You can level the entire city if you really wanted to. So in that way, it kind of reminds me of the later Red Faction games where you could just destroy every building and all that. And who doesn't love blowing everything up?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's pretty much my thoughts on it. I'll keep an eye on it.
We'll have to see. So one game that is definitely going to somehow. I need to play the first one. Is the announcement of Life is Strange Before the Storm, which is the sequel for the adventure game Life is Strange, which I have and I haven't played it. And
why you not play it?
Really need to because everyone says it's awesome.
Why you not play it? Says the guy who's in the exact same shoes as you.
Yeah,
I also have it, and I also have not played it, and I also have really intended to play it.
Yeah, I think
if only our intents were.
I'm gonna try before August 31st, and that's a lot of times that'll light a fire under my ass to like if I'm sitting on a game in my backlog and it's a sequel instead of like a series or something. Like if there was like 3 or 4 games out already, then it's kind of like whatever.
You get a hopeless feeling.
But so that's pretty cool.
It was kind of like a out of nowhere. Like I know it being released by Square Enix, it wasn't really a huge gamble, but it kind of just was like a sleeper hit almost. Where I didn't hear much about it at first, but once it was all out, people were like, "This is amazing! You have to play it." So I was like, "Oh," because I heard at first it's just kind of slow moving with it's almost like just a teen angsty story or something at first, and then it kind of blossoms into a lot more. So it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll definitely both have to get off our asses and play that.
Yes.
Or I guess get on our asses because we'd have to sit there to play it. So
true. Good point.
Another one that looks really cool was a game called Ashen, which was it's kind of like an RPG where there's no natural light besides light from volcanic eruptions. There's no sunlight. It's a very dark game.
Very Dark Souls kind of ish.
Yeah.
Another Dark Souls-ish game.
Yeah.
More with a I'd say a kind of cartoony or like think Team Fortress 2 aesthetic.
Yeah, a little bit of exaggerated body shapes and stuff in it. It looks
Pixar
cool.
meets Dark Souls.
Pixels. Yeah, it was
Pixels. There you go.
There we are. And then another cool sequel to another pretty big hit is Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I have yet to play Ori and the Blind Forest.
I know, me too, and everyone says it's so good.
And I have it because I believe it was a free game, one of the games with gold a while back. So I do have it accessible to me to download, but I
don't. And there is like a little neat like collector's edition that was released later that I think you can still get online. It just comes in a steel case and whatnot. But I really need to play that.
Yeah, we're jerks.
Yeah.
We neglect these games sometimes. We don't mean to. Just
right.
Responsibilities.
Yes. And then as far as the Microsoft conference, I think this was a Microsoft conference game, but a game called Super Lucky's Tale, which is kind of looks like a very kid-friendly platformer.
Yeah, it's like a mascot platformer like we don't get as many of these days.
Yeah.
Market used to be flooded with a ton of Sonic and Mario wannabe,
right?
Animal mascot things, but this actually looks kind of cool.
Yeah, looks kind of neat. So then on to some Bethesda stuff.
Bethesda wants to get right in your face, literally.
Yes.
Because about half of their conference was all about the VR.
Yes, which I mean, hell yeah. I don't have VR, so
I'm hell yang that it's getting support, which is getting me more excited.
Yes.
For the thought of getting a VR headset, because as we stated before, I believe it was the last podcast, how we're both really interested in these, but we're both really not wanting to put that kind of money into something that might just be right now flash in the pan phase, like it tends to be sometimes. But this time it looks like they're actually, now that our technology has progressed enough, it seems like they're actually supporting it. It's actually going to be around for a while. So some bigger developers are hopping on. We're not just getting some demo type games to show what it can do. We're getting games that can actually apply that crap, and that's super exciting to me.
Yeah. So they showed off Doom VFR, which it's not Doom 4. It's a new game. Looks interesting. I noticed that they're going. So last episode, I talked about some of the VR games I played on the Vive, where instead of just having like a joystick to move or something, that you kind of teleport to move, and looks like what this Doom VFR is using.
And I seen that in the trailer for it, and I thought, that must have been what he was talking about. Because that's a very frantic game, and you need to be able to move around fast. So I was kind of wondering how it was going to work, and then I kind of seen him doing that. So that's cool.
I mean, as is, if you took like just regular Doom 4 and made that VR, I don't think anybody's stomach would be able to handle that game, because that game is so fast paced and so like. Ugh.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, right. But then we also got Fallout 4 VR, which is Fallout 4 in VR, which I think that would be really freaking cool.
Out of the 3 big franchise announcements, I think this one excited me the most to the thought of it.
Yeah.
Fallout 4 is one of my favorite games of this gen. Hands down. I really loved it. A lot of people seem to either love it or be really indifferent to it.
I'm with you. I loved it.
So great. I did literally everything it was to do in my Xbox version, and then I got it for PS4 pretty cheap. So the temptation is there to just jump into it when I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't. I've got games I've never played to play.
Right.
And then speaking of games I've played way too much, the third big franchise, of course, is Skyrim Vr, which almost makes me a little bummed out, because they also showed Skyrim for the Switch, which adds Zelda items, and I'm a Zelda slave.
Yeah, I thought that was a little much. I was like, come on.
I'm like, and even if that wasn't in it, I was going to buy Skyrim for the fifth time on the Switch, because it's Skyrim.
Yeah,
I can bring it anywhere.
Yeah.
And Skyrim being, I think, my favorite game ever. So
yeah, that's it. Like I've always said, for those who have kind of gone the Nintendo route all these years, there's a lot of people that still haven't had the opportunity to play Skyrim, and I think this is a great chance.
What is their problem?
Yeah.
They should have at least owned a PlayStation or Xbox with just Skyrim if they're and just hid it in their closet and pretend to be a devout Nintendo fan.
Yes. So then one game that I don't know, I'm curious to see what they do with it. I'm not particularly excited, but I know a lot of people are, and I'm slightly confused by why people love the original so much. I mean, personal opinions and all, but they announced Evil Within 2, which has an October 13th release date.
Pretty soon. And obviously Evil Within is, I believe, your only negative review on a game that I know of.
Yep. Only I haven't done a ton of game reviews on my YouTube channel, but when I played the Evil Within 1, I was already kind of thinking about doing YouTube, and I played the Evil Within after reading all this stuff, like, this is the return of survival horror, Shinji Mikami's masterpiece of the new generation.
Yeah, like, they put a lot on this game's shoulders, and it wasn't the greatest.
And I played the game, and I was like, huh?
That it? That all you got?
I mean,
put it back for a while. It's not done yet. Put it back in heaven.
I mean, if anybody really wants to hear my thoughts on it, it's the very first review I did. So it's before I had a capture card. Like, my capture card arrived like a few days later, so I didn't have gameplay, so I just used the trailer. But I think my thoughts are solid on it, and I still kind of pretty much stand by those. But Evil Within 2, here's an opportunity where maybe they can change some things up, get away from the played out, wholly unoriginally inspired Japanese horror story, and maybe try to do something a little different.
Yeah.
So, and of course, they didn't show any gameplay. It was just...
It was all cinematic. So the cinematic looked cool. Like, if it was a movie, I'd be like, hell yeah. But without any gameplay, I'm like, well, it could be a meh game with cool cutscenes in between. So
yeah.
I haven't played really enough of Evil Within to form an opinion of it. I thought it was all right at what I played, but nothing like they were lauding it to be, like the returning champion of, I don't know.
Yeah.
The torchbearer of the new millennia or something.
Basically.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of games making a comeback, we got Quake Champions. They showed a lot more about that. It's currently in beta.
Yep.
But it looks cool. Who doesn't love Quake?
Yeah, and I mean, I probably am not going to be checking it out at this time, but my opinions could always change. I used to play Quake back in the day, online PC with friends and whatnot, and it was a blast. If you're into the kind of arena deathmatch style, it looks like they're trying to do implement a little bit more of the hero shooter into it, while still trying to maintain that arena shooter.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna laugh. Just laugh away from your microphone. But my Quake experience started with the N64 games, and I actually loved. I loved those games actually.
It's better than nothing, because Quake, I think those were great games. Up there with Doom, with Wolfenstein, with Duke. Quake is right in there.
And then I played a lot of the Quake 3 Arena and stuff like that on PS2 when was one of the first PS2 games I actually played. I think it was Tony Hawk 3, Grand Theft Auto 3, and Quake Arena. I think me and my friend, he owned 2 of them, and I think we rented Quake and played it all weekend.
Mm.
So I've played enough Quake.
Yeah.
To be like, excited at the thought of it, just like Unreal, It's a game I kind of would just dabble in. I don't think I could see myself going hardcore into it, but they're fun to play. The arena shooters are fun for a bit.
Yeah. And then one game that I am very excited about is kind of out of nowhere, as far as I'm concerned, is a standalone game, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, which is going to focus on 2 of the other characters that we have been around from the first and the second game, and it's going to deal with the kind of outsider character plot line. And like I said, it's a standalone game, so if you don't have the others, you can still play this, although you're doing yourself a huge disservice by not playing Dishonored 1 and 2 before playing this one, because, I mean, of course, the story significance, I think, is kind of going to be lost to some extent. I'm sure they'll fill you in.
Yeah. Well, it looks cool for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some work ahead of me, as I just picked up Dishonored 2 yesterday, I believe. Yesterday. But I did love the first one, and this was a bit confusing. We actually had to look it up before the podcast. Is it a DLC or is it its own game? Because they made it look like its own game. So it's its own standalone game. So it's cool.
And I'm looking forward to that. I never got it. Well, up to this point, I still haven't had a chance to do a review for Dishonored 2. Of course, I played Dishonored 1 before I was doing my YouTube channel, so I'm not really doing many reviews for games then. But I do have the footage recorded, and the thoughts in my head. It's just making the time to possibly someday review Dishonored 2, which I think is one of the most underrated games of 2016. Because, I mean, who the hell is talking about Dishonored these days?
Yeah, right.
Me, besides me.
I'm talking about it with you. You're not talking to a wall.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
You're talking to a screen, and I'm talking to a screen, but we're talking to each other.
Yes.
And care to take it away on what I consider the biggest part of the Bethesda conference?
Yeah, the announcement of Wolfenstein 2. the new Colossus, which, I mean, if anybody's played the new Wolfenstein games, the New Order, Old Blood, fantastic. Just like Doom 4, like taking these old franchises rooted in the origins of the first-person genre and bringing them to a new generation while still kind of staying true to the original formula, but doing some new things with it.
Yeah, where it doesn't feel like you're playing an old game with some new bells and whistles. It feels like an actual current gen game with the lore of the old games, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I liked the way they presented the whole thing, where they started with like a little, little house almost like a Little House on the Prairie style thing, or not really a little house, but like, the old campy TV show thing with the giant mech dog.
Yep.
Yeah, it looked
pretty. It looks. I kind of get the impression they're going to do more to expand on the story and maybe the impact, because basically the story of the Wolfenstein games at this point is kind of like Germany won World War II, and they dominate the world now. So there's some interesting. They showed like maybe like New York, or maybe not New York, but it looked maybe more like Philadelphia, or some town, and there's Nazis, and like they're like hanging out talking with like KKK members, and it's like, whoa, that's fucked up. Like, what the hell?
But not there. It just seemed like an everyday occurrence. Just,
so get to hopefully be dual wielding some assault rifles and killing some Nazis.
What's not to love about that? Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's almost got like a sort of a like the first not Dishonored. What's that game where the Koreans?
Homefront.
Homefront, yes. Yeah,
yes.
Homefront. It's got almost like a Homefront feel, where there's like a small resistance fighting back, trying to liberate everybody. It's kind of like that feel to it. So I like that. The first Homefront was pretty cool.
I dig it.
Hell yeah.
So then on to Ubisoft. Not a whole lot of announcements, but they had some pretty big announcements, I think.
Oh yeah, well, we got to see a lot more of South Park: The Fractured But Whole, which is coming out October 17th. It's what else can you say? If you have not played South Park: The Stick of Truth, it's another game you've done yourself a great disservice.
Yes.
If you're either a fan of South Park or a fan of RPGs, and if you're a fan of both, you definitely need to play this. It was one of my favorite games of last gen. I was trying not to be too excited about it because usually the licensed games have burnt us before.
Yeah, we've had South Park games before.
Yeah, and they have not been that great.
No.
So that was being nice.
I am so stoked for it. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely hilarious. I love the superhero plot line that they have in South Park. So being able to experience that. Yeah.
So it's got a different feel because the first one was when they were playing Lord of the Rings or whatever.
The Rings sort of combo.
Yeah, so that was so it's just like a completely new game they're playing as kids do. But it seems like they've expanded the battle systems and all that too, so that'll be a new feeling experience, not just a change of from superheroes or from Lord of the Rings to superheroes. So I cannot wait. Speaking of other games I can't wait for, Beyond Good and Evil 2 has finally been announced after almost 15 years from the first one coming out.
Yep. Unfortunately, we only got a cinematic trailer.
Yes.
So that's kind of a drag, because sometimes it makes you think, how far along is this game in development?
Yeah.
But,
what we did see looked beautiful, though. I have to say.
Great trailer. Sounds like it's probably going to be a prequel, from my understanding.
Yeah, just it's one of those things where just knowing that they're finally making something that you've been wanting for a while. A lot of people have just kind of forgotten about it or given up hope, but we're ever getting one. 15 years will do that.
Yes.
So it was a kind of out of left field announcement. I was really excited about.
Yeah. And then one that I'm not being a hater. I just have like a little interest in. So I'll let you run with this one because it seems like a lot of people are really stoked for this.
Yeah, it was a game that like they kind of I think it was either leaked or they just talked a tiny bit about before E3.
Mm-hmm.
Was Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. And I'm not a fan of the Rabbids games at all. But this game actually looks pretty badass.
It's basically XCOM.
It's basically XCOM with Mario World in it.
And
obviously the Rabbids, which just remind me of Minions.
Yes.
They're basically like rabbits with caveman faces, and I can't. Things like the Minions and Rabbids usually kind of annoy me.
Totally.
But I don't think they're meant for me. They're more of a kid's thing, but generally so is Mario, I guess. But
yeah.
I still love Mario. I think it's probably because I've loved it since I was a kid. But initially when I first heard about this, I was just like, oh yeah, it's just a crappy crossover, Not all the Mario games can be great. And then I seen this is what actually Ubisoft opened up their conference with. Miyamoto came out and they had their little mock guns that are what they use in the game. It's like a tactical cover shooting chess type XCOM game, like you said.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're making that work, but it looks really interesting and looks like something that would be really fun to play with somebody else. I'm not sure if it's multiplayer or not, but it certainly looks interesting. It's not a full price game, I would say, but it's something I would like to pick up at some point for my Switch. I think I'd get a lot of fun out of it.
For sure.
Hells yeah. I mean, it's probably I would say it was my biggest surprise of the show. Like, it did a lot more than I was expecting out of it. I was just expecting to like tune out and look at my phone or something while this was going on, but it actually caught my attention, and we'll see where it goes. It's got the potential to be a pretty cool game that some people might actually dismiss like I did initially.
Yeah,
so,
or like me.
Yeah, even after I told you, you're like, yeah, but I don't care. And you don't have to care.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. I'm not going to make you. Big whoop, you want to fight about it?
Right. And then the last game that we got here from Ubisoft, whatever you want to call them, looks like they're maybe trying to steal a little bit of that Sea of Thieves Steam. Skull and Bones.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool looking multiplayer pirate game developed by the people who worked on the sea battle stuff from Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which was a lot of people's favorite part of that game.
Yes, that's what I hear.
So it's kind of cool that they are developing a full game based around that. It's actually a lot more interesting to me than Sea of Thieves was.
Yes.
So I like pirate things, which is kind of weird that I'm not too hyped about Sea of Thieves. Maybe I just haven't seen the right thing to grip me on it yet. The jury's still out on that, but Skull and Bones looked cool to me right off the bat. Although, if it's a multiplayer-only game, I most likely will not be picking it up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So let's hope there's some kind of campaign or something in there that would capture my interest, but who knows?
So then we are on to Sony's conference, and got a lot of stuff, some things that we had heard about, getting a little bit more info, but of course the big one for Sony and the PlayStation is the Uncharted sequel expansion
Spin-off
for Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which is following
the ladies, isn't it?
Yes, and I don't know their
Sidekick?
Names because I don't remember.
It escapes me right now as well.
I've only played Uncharted 1. I do have 2 and 3, and it's fully my intention to play those and play 4 eventually. I just haven't gotten there yet. And
also, as you know, and as I've talked about before, I just started the Uncharted series myself after getting a tidbit of 4 played and thinking it was amazing.
Mm.
So I do intend to play through this, and then I'll probably remember the characters' names.
Yes.
It's probably one of the saddest things that I skipped over last gen, so I'm glad I'm finally catching up on the Nathan Drake collection.
Agreed.
But it's definitely a regrettable thing that I shouldn't have skipped.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And then kind of back onto the zombies, which is actually one that I am super stoked about, especially after seeing this trailer. Is got a new trailer for Days Gone, where they've kind of shown us more of the world, more of the opportunities that we can have. They're kind of taking, think of your regular zombie games, whatnot. A little bit more action, open world. Like think GTA, but zombies, or like Horizon Zero Dawn with zombies. But they're kind of taking that element of like zombie hordes, like to the max, where you'd be trying to cross a bridge and oh crap, there's a zombie horde coming, and one of them trips, and then they just pile over the zombie and like keep coming at you and stuff. And there's a scene where like a dude like busts open like a wall and the zombies just come pouring through it as like part of a setup to like take down a base.
Kind of like a
camp.
Kind of like a corpse flood, if you will.
Exactly.
It looks very cool. Yeah, like when
I'm stoked.
I seen the teaser they showed a while ago about it, and I was just kind of, oh yeah.
Yeah, they didn't show much.
So I was just kind of, it wasn't really on my radar, but
last year.
Yeah, but when they showed it this year, it really got my attention now. It's on my radar. I'll be keeping an eye on it for sure.
Yes. And then one that I couldn't even imagine it was going to happen, but they are doing a Shadow of the Colossus remake.
Yeah, this ain't just a coat of paint. It was very, very apparent by this.
We got our HD remasters when they did the Shadow Colossus Ico remaster, but this is essentially it's the same game, but they're like remaking it, so it's
running it all new engine,
new graphics, like better controls, better cameras. Like it looks freaking awesome. I mean, the original game I think still looks awesome.
It still holds up, yeah. But this is not just sharpening it up and making it look a little smoother. It's a complete overhaul, so that's good to see.
Yeah,
I don't mind when they do that to a game when they're actually putting some effort into it. When it's just a little bit of upscaling, like why did you bother?
Right. So definitely have to see some more of that.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of seeing more, them showing off God of War makes me want it even more.
Yes.
God of War was pretty much one of my favorite games back when PS2 was new. I've since expanded, and I've got other games I like a lot more, but it's basically what sold me a PS3 was God of War 3.
Mm-hmm.
I had to buy it because it was coming out in like a month. But this game captures my interest way more because I'm way more into like Norse style mythology than I am into the Greek mythology. So
yeah, and
this looks pretty badass. I love Viking stuff. So
and I like that it looks like they're toning the gameplay down. Like it's not so intense and crazy. It's a little bit more methodical and more
realistic.
One-on-one, less fighting like 6 guys at once with these crazy whatever flips and this and that.
Yeah.
So I like the more kind of grounded feel of it.
Yeah, because he has just like an axe in this one where he doesn't have the blades that are bound to his skin with the chains.
Yeah.
So it's understandable why it's more like that. So it's I don't know. I think it looks like a cool change, and it's something. I think it's something that the series is needed because it's kind of stagnated with how many Greek gods is there left to kill after you've killed them?
Right.
Killed them for 4 games, like
right.
So four main series games and what 2 side games. Like, yeah,
Yes.
you've killed everyone.
Pretty much.
You've killed aspiring gods.
Now we're moving to other religions, and we're gonna kill all their gods.
Kill all the gods. They should just call it "Kill all the gods."
Yeah.
I'm sure that it would sell well in the Bible Belt. Kill all the gods.
Yes. And then they had another trailer for Detroit Become Human, which I really wish they would they need to show us more, because last year we had a pretty interesting trailer where they showed how, apparently they're making choice like actually significant in this game, where there was a standoff with a guy in a hostage situation, and there was like a ton of different ways you can handle it. And apparently the consequences are supposed to be like overarching. And this time they just kind of showed another trailer, cinematic trailer, but given more an intro to the world. It's basically a resistance group like saving and freeing androids from servitude to humans, and then the ethical dilemmas that rise from them. It's the same people who did Heavy Rain and whatnot, I believe. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure it's the same.
Sean!
Press X to Jason. And
Sean!
yeah, so that is neat, but like I said, I need to see more extended gameplay.
Yeah, that's a game you really need to kind of look into more in depth.
Yes.
Rather than not really going to show you like a sizzle reel on that kind of game.
Yeah.
But speaking of a game that does show quite the sizzle reel, is they showed more of Spider-Man.
Yes.
I don't know if you know this, but I fucking love Spider-Man. So I've probably bought every Spider-Man game that's come out since PS1. Every single one. I love the Spider-Man games. Not so much 3 on the PS2 as I mentioned before, but I am a big fan of all these games.
And I actually haven't really played any Spider-Man games since retro era.
Why you do this?
Good old beat 'em ups. But so I think the really cool thing about this Spider-Man, and I think it's a trend right now anyways, I would like to see happen with more superheroes, is basically it's like Spider-Man Arkham.
Yeah.
It's like the Batman games, but Spider-Man.
I was getting that feeling too, and just the physics and the way he moves and the way you swing is, you got way more control over him than you ever have before.
Yes.
He's so much more capable. So this is really cool. The last really good one I think I liked was Web of Shadows. They had a couple sequels after it. There was Shattered Dimension, which was kind of cool, but this one by far is a lot bigger in scope. It seems like it's going to be like they're really trying with this one. This isn't just a cash in on a movie. It's not even a cash in on a movie. It's its own thing. Like his suit looks different than it does in the new movie. It doesn't look anything like.
It looks like they're going off of
almost kind of what's going on in the comics right now.
Unlimited, is that what it is?
Yeah, sort of.
Man.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like the white spider on his. I think they should have went not exactly traditional, but like closer to what you're used to seeing.
I'm glad they switched it up. Because
we've seen they could have switched up his whole costume, but I just think the white on his blue and red. I'm like, are they just trying to make him more America? Or he's gotta have the red, white, and blue. They're like, he's not enough white in there. We need to know Spider-Man's more American. So he's gotta.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but it doesn't. I don't know.
Looks awesome.
I'm sure there'll be skins where you can switch to the black suit.
Oh yeah.
And the 2099.
Yeah.
And the traditional one.
Yep.
So I'm not really that bothered by it. It's not taking away from the game at all. That's just a small
Yeah. And then of course, if anybody has been following my channel or kind of knows my thoughts, I'm insanely excited for this. This is such a gift to the world. In all honesty. A little exaggeration aside, Undertale is being released for the PS4 and the Vita, and there is going to be a physical version of it. So doubly excited. And what is particularly awesome about this is Undertale. If I did a review on the game, I thought it was my game of the year for 2015. Originally I'd said Fallout 4, and then I went back and played Undertale, and I was like, no, it's definitely Undertale, no doubts about it.
I'm
Amazing.
happy that I can finally try it. Oh
my god, it's just such a great RPG. I think because of the fandom, there seems to be like some, I don't know if it's like one of those like DeviantArt fandoms or a Tumblr fandom or something, but I hear a lot of people talking about how they cannot handle Undertale's fan base, which is weird because I've never came across like any like really annoying people. It's not like My Little Pony fans or Sonic fans or anything like that.
Hey, leave those bronies alone.
But it's going to be really interesting how they do some of the more meta features of Undertale. Like I don't want to say too much without spoiling anything, but they do some really interesting things with like the actual like game application running and your save files. So it'd be cool. Like I'm assuming they've had to found a way to do that on the console, so you can't necessarily do that sort of thing as well as you can on the PC, but giving more people the chance to play Undertale, because I know there's a lot of people who do not play PC games. Undertale has been PC exclusive. And now getting it out, I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, I'm glad to finally try this game that you've obviously backed 100%.
I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm so excited for a physical version. I've been dreaming of it for ever since I played the game.
I'm so excited that you're backing it so much that you're willing to buy me a copy and send it to me. That's how much you want me to play it.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see. Some games I will hype to that extent.
That was just shameless. Oh, when you were so hyped, I could have swore you were hyped for the new Dissidia game.
Oh my!
I see NT.
Yeah, he's being sarcastic because that's
very sarcastic. Very sarcastic.
I do have the PSP Dissidia game that I've never played. I just got it for super cheap, and I'm like, whatever. Final Fantasy, I'll throw it in my collection.
Yeah, there's two of them, I think. There's I got the first one, and it was kind of all right. I think I got it for $1 when Walmart was having one of their crazy everything that we only have a couple of copies of is $1 sales. So,
I mean, it's they're games for the fans, and it gives people that fantasy of seeing what it would be like if, Sephiroth fought Kefka or Cloud fought Locke or whatever. So that's cool.
All it is basically a 3D fighting game, really. It's really
it's an arena fighter.
Like an arena fighting game. Yeah, it looks. It looks. It is what it is. It looks cool for the genre that it's from. It looks well done, at least. So, we'll see how that goes. But as far as a game that I, for one at least, am legit excited about is Ni no Kuni 2, which comes out 4 days after my birthday, November 10th.
Yes.
And 4 days later is not too late to get me a birthday present. So
and
I'm stoked for this. I love the Ghibli movies.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people are excited.
I'm hearing a lot of stuff that kind of slowed down the first game, the progression of it. The story parts are being kind of ironed out in this one, so that's cool. The visuals are second to none. If you love the Ghibli movies, you have to be playing the first Ni no Kuni. It's pretty much what brought it to my attention.
Yeah.
My whole family, I think we own just about every Ghibli movie there is. I'm only missing 3 that I can think of. Every time they come out, which is always at a bad time. It's always when I don't have any money, they'll come out 2 at a time.
Yeah.
And they're like a $35 movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't have $70 right now. But I will find $70 because we only got 2 copies. And when they're gone, I'm sure that's it.
Yep.
Because small town problems.
Right. Yeah, I still need to play the first Ni no Kuni. I actually
I need
picked
to
it up.
finish.
Picked it up off of the recommendation of Throwback Gaming, Cliff. At the time was Southern Star Gamer. He's like, you need to get this game and check it out. So I picked it up, and I just haven't played it yet. But since then, I've only heard great things about it.
Are you a fan of the Ghibli movies, or have you
Nausicaa
watched
and the
them?
Valley of the Wind is my absolutely favorite anime of all time. I've seen it more than probably any other thing ever.
You're my
So,
friend.
Yeah.
We can be friends.
But originally, actually, so Nausicaa was originally released in North America in 1985 or 83. I can't remember, as Warriors of the Wind.
Mhm.
And that's the version that I watched like tons and tons and tons of times. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Unbeknownst to me that they cut 45 minutes out of it. You know, names were all changed. And then after the success of Princess Mononoke, one of the first Ghibli films that was released along with, I think it was that, Kiki's Delivery Service, and there was one, maybe it was the Return of the Black Cat, I think.
Oh, okay.
But Nausicaa was released, and I was like, hell yes, because I had Warriors of the Wind on a dubbed VHS. You know, I made a copy of a VHS rental, Warriors of the Wind. And
You're all about the bootlegging and stealing today.
Back in
I thought I knew you.
But yeah, so then I saw Nausicaa. I had a friend that I had showed him Warriors of the Wind in the early 90s, and he really enjoyed it. And at some point, that was back when I was collecting comic books, he actually came across the Nausicaa manga, and he read that. He said it was great. He liked it more than Warriors of the Wind. And then Nausicaa came out, and you know, I was day one, pre-ordered that shit. I've probably watched Nausicaa now 20 times. Well, I guess it's not a lot in, like, you know, the 10 to 15 years it's been out on DVD.
Well, I guess I know what you're doing tonight after this, then.
I'm watching some Nausicaa. I freaking love Nausicaa. But yeah, anyways.
Nausicaa is Nausicaa.
It's yeah, I absolutely love it.
I'm also a huge fan of the movie. It's great.
Yes.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Back to video games.
Yes. Knack 2.
Yeah, sequel to one of the PS4 launch games.
I know Video
it's
Game
kind-
Donkey is really excited.
Yeah, and it's kind of a divided thing. I've heard it's really meh, but I've also heard it's really cool and I should check it out. And I should check it out since I own it.
Yep.
I've owned it actually twice. I should really get on that.
Yeah.
I should really lock myself in a bunker and try all these games. I'm starting to feel like someone who just has it to have it. So I gotta at least play it. But it's because we're completionists. We don't just play the first 20 minutes of a game and to say we play it. We beat a game unless it really, really sucks, and then we don't bother. But yeah, I don't know what to say either way about that.
Yeah.
I'm not hyped. I just have knowledge that there's two now that I should maybe play.
Yep.
Moving on. The first Monster Hunter game to come to a PlayStation console in, I think it's like 8 years, is Monster Hunter World. Monster Hunter is not a series I'm huge into. I have played a couple of the games.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah.
And this looks like a excellent addition to the series, but not being a huge fan of them, I can't really build upon that.
Yeah, same.
They look cool. It's just something maybe it's something I'm missing out on. Just like maybe it's like another version of Uncharted. It's just a game I'll play. I'll get into it at the right time, and I'll just be like, where has this game been all my life?
Right.
But who knows?
Yes.
And then on another game that's been waiting to come out, and the last one was out on a PlayStation many moons ago, we finally saw some more gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 3, which some people will be pretty stoked about. If I remember correctly, you're not a big Kingdom Hearts fan?
Not at all.
Am I correct? I thought
No,
so.
not at all.
I thought you told me that.
I can't.
I like them to an extent. I'm not a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, but I do enjoy them for what they are.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people do enjoy them, and that's fine.
My friend turned me on to like right after it came out. Him being a big Nightmare Before Christmas fan. I believe that's the first one had the Nightmare Before Christmas world in it, and he's like, "You gotta play it if you like this movie." And I did like that movie before it was like the #1 goth
Before
kid
Hot Topic
movie.
took it over.
Yeah, like I remember begging my dad to bring me to see it in the theater when it was brand new, when I was like 7 years old, even though I had the flu. I made my dad bring me to the I begged him and I cried. Bring me to see this. It looks so awesome. And he brought me, and I saw probably the first 15 minutes, puked in the aisle, spent half the movie in the bathroom puking, and then tried to go back, watch another couple minutes, and then puke some more, and not have any way to see it for, I don't know, it took a long time. I don't know if I just didn't see it, I forgot about it, but it took till pretty much right before it came out on DVD before I even saw it again. And then it became the overhyped phenomenon that it is now. And I can't say I don't like it. It's still a great movie, but it's become kind of a goth
the
cliche.
fan base.
Yeah, goth and emo cliche to like that movie.
Basically.
I don't want to sound hipster by saying I liked it before it was cool, so I won't. But I had a legit interest in it before it was the big thing for goths.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just always liked the Tim Burton styling of things. He used to be cool back in the day. He's kind of just stuck too much to the samey-ish stuff in recent years. So, and I don't know why him and
Johnny Depp
don't just get married.
Yeah. So then on to Nintendo, which I know.
Contain your excitement, please. Contain your excitement. I can hear you shaking from here.
So yeah. So
hype.
I want to preface this by saying I'm not dismissing Nintendo because I don't like Nintendo as a company. Like, I still think Nintendo makes pretty cool games and whatnot. I just want to say, I think a lot of people are like Nintendo won, and I don't agree with that whole like who won E3 thing. But that's fine. You know, I don't agree with people a lot of times. So that's okay. You know, there's some really cool stuff coming out. That's awesome. I'm stoked. I'm just not sold.
I just kind of said it because it seems like something someone always has to say.
Oh no, you pretty much
like PlayStation has a cool game, and they're like, they destroyed Xbox. Oh my God, Xbox! Yeah. Rest in peace. They're dead. Sony won. And I was like, this year, but then this year, like Sony's wasn't. I mean, I think it's because they weren't showing a lot of new stuff. They showed a lot of good stuff. Like we just reviewed, it was a lot of stuff that had been announced already, so they built upon it. So as far as like big reveals, they definitely weren't on the scale they were on last year, whereas last year they were hitting it out of the park.
Yeah. And
stuff like that. But I never have to say anybody actually wins, but
everybody else was saying somebody had to win. And they're saying Nintendo won.
I will say, if you're making a tally sheet of exclusives that I'm looking forward to, Nintendo had the most.
Sure.
That does not mean they actually slaughtered anybody. No one got bulldozed. Everyone kind of held their own this year. Nobody shit the bed. Xbox talked about games this year.
Yeah.
So that was great. That was good. Thumbs up. BDs.
But I mean, I'd imagine at this point, most of these games probably don't need much to be said about them, but let's do it anyways.
Probably not. Mario Odyssey. Yes. I'm I've been wanting a grand scale Mario game that has not really existed since Mario Sunshine. And I was saying that's all they need. We need a big Mario game, not a little cutesy, new gimmicky Mario game. We need a big Mario game. And it looks like that's what they're trying to do. And I could not be happier because that's all I've wanted out of Mario.
Yeah.
Mario has just become kind of a little... Like I liked 3D World, I liked that, but they were all like kind of. They always just seemed like a small game. Like none of them felt like a grand scale. Like I'm saying, like on the scale of like a Zelda game, like a huge world. It just felt like little levels strung together. You know, like 3D World was literally just like Mario World, with little levels that you could complete in like 5 minutes, which is pretty much what like 64 and all that did. But when you left the level, you felt like you were actually working towards something. So I don't know what I'm really getting at, but
yeah,
I'm excited for
game. People are stoked.
He's got a new thing where he throws his hat and he becomes the thing.
You know, I don't really want to go into it right now just because we're running long, but I don't really love that mechanic.
I don't know if I do either. That's one thing I was like, oh, I got that he was using his hat like when they showed the announcement trailer for it. I seen them using it like as a traversal thing, like he'd throw the hat and then he'd jump on it to get across the gap. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like it as that kind of a mechanic, but I don't know, like hey, there's a thing, I'm gonna become that thing. Like when he throws it on a T-Rex and he's a T-Rex now. It's just like they couldn't decide what suit they wanted him to have pop out of the block this time. They're like, he's been a cat, he's been a raccoon. People are like, a whale. Let's make him be a T-Rex.
Yeah, and people are like, oh my god, Mario, and there's a dinosaur in a Mario game? It's like,
what about Yoshi, bud?
You know? I mean, Yoshi's been a thing for like 25 years at this point. But,
yo, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah. But speaking of Yoshi, we got an announcement for Yoshi.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of expanding on the Woolly World thing of the arts and crafts look to the game.
Yeah, like cardboard cutouts kind of thing with
paper craft, but not really Paper Mario style, more like a what a kid would make a toy castle or out of a cardboard box.
It's kind of using the
construction paper. So
the foreground background reversal kind of makes me think of like something like Fez.
Yeah, a little bit.
Where you're like, there's two different levels or two different layers, and when you go to the back layer, like the whole level like switches around, so you can like completely see the backside instead of just being like, you know, in a like
like a complete 180 of what it looked like.
Yes.
I'm hoping it works out better than they kind of tried something like that with Super Paper Mario for the Wii, and I didn't really like that part. It really turned me off. I think it kind of, I don't know, it really held. I mean, it was following up Thousand Year Door, so that's big shoes to fill. But I think it looks like it could be cool. I kind of like the artsy, craftsy, and kidsy.
Yeah, it looks a little
way they work on with those games, because they're actually deceptively fun. Like, I just got Woolly World, and I got, the Kirby games are always fun, and they're always just cutesy games. Like, that's why a lot of like the hardcore gamers always dismiss a lot of Nintendo games, because they're family friendly and they're cutesy and they're cartoony. And to be honest, I did that for a while, but then you get stuck playing it one time and you're like, wow, this is actually really fun. Like when the Wii U came out, I ripped on it for being like, oh, cool, it's like a Wii with a Game Gear. And I ended up playing 3D World and I loved it. And I was like, actually, this works really well. Why did I make fun of it? And I apologized. Speaking of Kirby, there's a new Kirby game too.
Yeah.
Looks like a return to the classic style, which is a regular like Kirby's Dream Land type game. Nothing like the Rainbow Curse or the Epic Yarn. It's more just a straight up Kirby game, so that's always welcome. Those have always been fun games.
Totally.
Can't remember playing a bad Kirby game, to be honest. Rainbow Curse looked like it was going to be kind of lame, but upon playing it, I was wrong. Like I said, they're deceptive.
Yes. Then, so
I'm gonna leave this one to you.
Okay, thank you. Not knocking people's excitement. I'm, by all means, everyone be super excited about this. And I wonder if anybody can guess where I'm going with this before I actually say it. But and I'm excited, even though I haven't played the other games yet. I have them. I haven't played them yet. But people are like, when it happened, people, like, I was watching Twitter and I was watching Facebook and game sites, and people are losing their fucking minds over just them showing a logo for
Files
Metroid
were
Prime 4.
voided.
They're like, oh my god, it's here. It's like, no, it's not. Like, they probably haven't even started working on this game yet. But
this is literally as far into development as they are.
Yeah, I mean, they showed a logo. Cool. Yeah, be excited. But Metroid Prime 4 logo is a large part. I would say that's like, it seems like most people were like Nintendo 1 because of Metroid Prime 4 logo and Super Mario Odyssey, and then one other game that we'll get to in a second. But I mean, very cool, but cool. Simmer down now, as I say it. And
well, as I was saying,
one thing that's concerning is it's not being developed by Retro.
Yeah, that is a concern. Also, being hyped that it's existing is great, but I can also admit that it was super lame that all we saw was a trailer. Like, they didn't even have, like...
Well, it wasn't even in a trailer.
Yeah,
it was just a logo.
Well, on the sites, they're calling it a trailer. Announcement trailer. Where they could have just been like, literally a guy sitting there going, Metroid Prime 4, y'all. And you're like, that would have been more work than literally just, he could have been holding a piece of paper and just like doing the old SCTV like 3D like
I mean, basically the way I saw it is, for the last couple years now at least, like, fans have been like demanding, like, give us a fucking Metroid. Give us Metroid. Nintendo's like ignoring them, and then they're like, okay, oh, you guys want Metroid? Here you go. Have Federation Force. People are like, what the fuck is this? We don't want this. And then
and to be
Nintendo apologists being like, why don't you guys give it a chance? It's Metroid. It's Metroid. No, shut up. Go away.
And after I got it for really cheap, I did try it, and it's a good game on its own.
I'm sure it's fun.
It's not Metroid level fun. It's like I said when I got
a different game, because Miyamoto was like, hey, we need this, whatever this game is you're working on, to sell. So let's make
IP, and they're like, no. He's like, no, shut it down. It's Metroid now.
Yeah, essentially. But this was I almost feel like this is kind of like a slight by Nintendo. They're like, okay, shut up, leave us alone. Here's a Metroid. Here's a logo. Sure, we're working on it.
Yeah. Like, that's not something that I've seen them do that I can recall very often. Like, when they're like, we're making Star Fox, they were showing like, I'm playing a bit of it. It'll be ready in like 2 years.
Yeah.
At least they were doing that. Like, they should have had a guy like sitting with like a circuit board and like with a screwdriver, like, I'm working on it right now, guys. Like, those things don't make a game. And he's letting you know I'm working on it.
Yeah, but
like hammering a nail into something. We're building it as you speak.
Right. But then, of course, the other big Metroid announcement was the Metroid 2 Return of Samus remake.
Yeah, is it a true remake? Did you find anything concrete? It's called Samus Returns, like, which is really close to the Return of Samus. But if it is a remake, it's a pretty big update to it.
Yeah, I am not 100%. I guess I don't have concrete, but from everything that I understand is it's pretty much a full-on remake of the Game Boy Metroid 2. So that's cool.
And it got an actual trailer.
Although
So we have something to go on, which is always.
Although I don't love the art style. Honestly, I way prefer the.
It's kind of too bright.
AM2R art style, the good old pixel art of the Super Nintendo mixed with the GBA ones. But and I almost wonder if this is a knee-jerk reaction to the outrage that people had when Nintendo shut down the AM2R, because I don't know, I could be wrong, but honestly I really feel like Nintendo wasn't working on this remake until they shut down AM2R. And maybe I'm wrong. This is an assumption. I don't have any credibility to back my thought, but I have a very strong suspecting feeling on that. And apparently Metroid the 2 remake, or quote unquote remake, potentially remake, whatever, is being made by a Spanish development studio, not even Nintendo.
Maybe they just made that guy start over again, but then they have him on the payroll.
Yeah,
but he can't talk about it.
Yeah, I don't think so, but who knows? Maybe.
They just seized his work, and now they're just taking it. They're scrubbing his name off of it. Anyway, I'm excited if it's a completely new Metroid handheld game, or if it is a remake of 2. As I told you, 2 was my first intro to the Metroid franchise, so that's good news either way for me.
Yeah, so then got a couple more trailers for games that we knew about, but a little expanded on some story things. First one being Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yes, bro.
For the Switch, which I have yet to play the Xenoblade games, but I hear they're great. I will pick them up eventually if I find them for cheap enough. And more Xeno is a good thing.
Yeah, didn't you get Chronicles X?
I don't remember. No, I didn't.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were going to pick it up when you grabbed me.
Yes, I did.
Other weekend. You did grab it?
Yes, I did.
Yay!
I haven't done my pickup video, so it's just sitting in the stack. So I almost forgot that.
Strike my comment from the record.
But I do have it.
Oh, I'm such.
Well, I shared pictures of my pickups, so.
A spoiler alert! Your next video, damn it.
But then
you have to put a spoiler tag in the middle of the video here.
Yeah,
all right. And then a game that, being a fan of the franchise, and I'm always open to trying these out. Fire Emblem Warriors got a actual trailer that shows more than just some cinematics.
Yeah.
And I know you're not a fan of the Warriors type of games, but generally I'm not either. But I have enjoyed some of the newer ones. Like I did enjoy Hyrule Warriors. And I did enjoy, to a certain extent, the Dragon Quest Warriors game. Yeah. So it's all right. I think it all has to do with if I'm interested in it. I kind of got over Dragon Quest Heroes pretty quickly, but it is what it is. They're kind of another one of those passing fun things that gets old kind of quick.
Sure.
It's nothing I really like playing a super long game of. It's kind of fun to run in and just slashing a ton of dudes. But this looks like it's got a bit more to it. Being a fan of Fire Emblem, why not?
Yeah.
Check it out. Got to keep the complete collection going. I'm not really a slave to that, but I'd like to try it out either way.
Sure.
So I can decide if I like it or not.
Yeah. So then the kind of last big announcement of Nintendo, I mean, they had some other things, of course. We were joking about the abundance of new amiibos to look forward to.
Yeah.
They announced some more Breath of the Wild DLC.
They did.
Master Tales and Champion's Ballad. So looks like Master Tales is kind of
Oh, it's
like
Master Trials, actually.
Master Trials. Sorry, Tales. I don't know why I put Tales.
What ifs?
Trials.
Close enough.
And it looks like it's kind of just like a Trials DLC. More shrines, more complicated shrines.
Yeah, they're tougher. I think it adds a hard mode too, I believe. So.
And then the
it's kind of like Master Quest, basically.
yeah. And then the Champion's Ballad, not a lot of info, correct?
Yeah, I think
but it's assumed that there's going to be backstory covering the other NPCs.
Yeah, the 4 champions that you need to liberate from the different temples. So that's cool. It's it is what it is. If you
one thing
buy the amiibos, you don't have to.
Right. One thing I will say is a little shady is that you cannot buy these DLCs separately. You have to buy them both.
Yeah, but you basically have to buy the season pass.
Season pass, yeah. So, is what it is.
It's, to be fair though, when they do DLC, they don't seem to charge a hell of a lot for it. I think it's only $20. So if you like the game enough, then you want more of it. $20 isn't as bad as some games with their season pass that is as much as the game, or more like the Battlefront one was when it first came out.
Yeah, right.
And the one for the newest Fire Emblem game. But so I guess there's that.
Yeah, and I would definitely say, from what I've played and what everybody's said, that more Breath of the Wild is a good thing, as long as it's not more Switch shirts for Link.
You bet.
So
on to our tiny little PC gaming snippets of
so
little stuff they had.
So these I'm just going to kind of run through real quick because we're actually running really long on this episode of the podcast. I think we're up to 2 hours.
Oh, shit.
So just a little couple quick mentions here, just because I know a lot of listeners aren't much on PC gaming and whatnot. But XCOM 2, War of the Chosen, which is an expansion for XCOM 2, which there's a good chance it will be on the consoles as well. More XCOM 2 is, I think, a good thing.
If you like the base game, you might like more, just like Zelda.
Yeah, and I will definitely say the new series of XCOM games are like fantastic. I never got a chance to play 2. I would like to play it eventually.
I did play the first one on the 360, though, of the new ones.
Yes. I thought the game was great.
Yeah, the bureau is garbage, but...
Absolute garbage. Absolute garbage. But one thing that I did not expect, although I'm not super surprised, so a few weeks ago, I heard that there was a new expansion that came out for Age of Empires, which is a PC RTS game. It's like one of the other big legendary series. You got Command and Conquer, you got Warcraft, you got StarCraft, but then you had Age of Empires. Yeah, Civilization. But then Age of Empires got an expansion. This game's been out for like 20 years. They got a new expansion. And then all of a sudden we get this announcement that there's an Age of Empires Definitive Edition, which is a complete package, all the add-ons, HD remastered. And that's freaking awesome because Age of Empires were fun RTS games.
Well, there you go. Good way to hop into it. Get it all at once.
Yeah. And then kind of adding on to sort of the strategy realm is there is a Battletech game coming out, which Battletech is a mech-based tabletop RPG. Kind of thinking like Warhammer, game that uses figures and stuff. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it looks like the game looks pretty in-depth, about building your own mech and going out and fighting it and wars and so on and so forth.
As far as the tabletop games goes, I know they have like a Warhammer game that's like faithful to the tabletop they've been putting out lately. So that's kind of cool.
Yes.
Tabletop's getting represented.
And then the only other kind of thing that I really took away from the PC gaming presentation was a game called Griftlands, which is made by the same people who did Banner Saga, and it's kind of just. It's not a strategy game like Banner Saga. It's more of kind of a traditional, I would say more along the lines of a JRPG with kind of like turn-based battle system. But it looks like there's, of course, there's going to be some heavy story elements. It looks like it has more of a sci-fi setting than a medieval.
That's cool. That's
but
good.
definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, that's cool.
Then
next up is something you got to get on top of now.
Of
It's
course.
almost been a whole podcast.
Almost the whole
Almost
podcast.
missed it. You almost missed it.
Of course, we're not going to miss it. I couldn't find. I think this was actually might have been shown during some of Nintendo's presentations because it was finally getting a release date for the Switch. But Shantae Half Genie Hero expansion, Pirates Queen's Quest has been announced. It will be coming out early fall, I believe, which is basically Shantae Half Genie's Hero. Retooled where you can play as Risky. So it looks like they're taking a lot of the skills that we used in Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, and Risky gets to use those in her quest, which is basically covering a lot of the same levels. Looks like they're switching up some of the story. So, of course, I got to talk about it. Of course, I'm super excited about it. And it looks awesome. So, yeah, there's my Shantae mention. Keep that going.
Keep it alive. Come on, they got to send you an advanced copy by now. Come on.
They should.
Make it happen.
I need that, like I said, I need to make that spreadsheet where I get all the mentions of every time and every one of my videos are on the podcast, and I can present my evidence to WayForward or Matt Bose and be like, look, hook a brother up.
Yeah. Like, all right.
I already got all the physical versions. There is a planned physical version for the Switch, I believe this summer, or it might be after the digital version comes out for the Switch. Of course, I will pick it up, even though I don't have a Switch.
Bring it over. I guess since the Switch is portable, I could bring the Switch over.
There you go. Just justified that purchase.
Yeah, we're like, no. See, he put it in the Switch. It counts. Or I could just, if you don't want to open it, I could just put it next to the Switch. You could be like,
yeah,
there we go.
And then a couple other games that I actually kind of missed out on seeing the trailers and whatnot that you brought up.
Yeah, the Call of Cthulhu, which is a survival horror looking game.
Yeah, and we weren't able to find if it was a remake of the one that was released for Xbox. I think it had a PC release as well. I could be wrong.
I believe so, yeah, it was a Bethesda game. But this one isn't made by Bethesda. So I'm thinking maybe it's a totally different thing and they didn't realize there's already a game called that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Either way, it looks pretty promising and
yes,
kind of cool. So it's something definitely keep my eye on. Definitely. And then I think that's about it, hey?
Yeah. Then there's Elix.
Oh, yes, Elix.
Which I had no idea about.
Yeah,
checked it out.
I guess they would call it a sci-fantasy. It's kind of science fiction and fantasy together. Mm-hmm. From the makers of the THQ Nordic, isn't it? THQ Nordic, the makers of a lot of the Gothic games. So that's cool. The only problem I have with it so far is the logo for it. Looks like they took the Halo Combat Evolved logo and just wrote Elix instead of Halo. Mm-hmm. But that's a very small thing. So hopefully they kind of realize that and switch that up, so people don't think it's just some kind of freeware game. And moving on.
Yeah. So that was pretty much it. Most of the things that I think we thought were worth mentioning. Of course, there was a lot more games shown that we could talk about for another hour or so, but
we're already going 2 hours, so we thought we'd do your ears a little favor.
Yeah. So then with that, we thought it would be fun to kind of mention some of our favorite picks from this year's E3. We haven't really mention, I mean, we mentioned a lot of games we're excited for, but we thought maybe it'd be fun to talk about. Just quick mention the top picks that we each had for E3. So I guess I will let you go with your picks. So,
all right, I'll do it as a countdown to make it super dramatic and weird.
Okay.
My number 5 was I did mine as a like what was announced. It's not really a rule, but what I think I was most hyped because I hadn't heard about these before.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 was Metro Exodus. Being a fan of the previous games, this looked like it added some cool new elements and stuff like that, so I'm pumped for that. Number 4, I love that logo, so Metroid Prime 4 mixed with Samus Returns, just the return of Metroid as we know it, being an exciting notion, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'd say number 3 was Beyond Good and Evil 2. It's been so long since we've been to that world, so I'm really excited to try that. Number 2 was Wolfenstein 2. It looks just amazing. I love the other new ones that are out. I even loved all the previous ones too, now that I think of it. Mm-hmm. And number 1, by kind of a long shot, was Anthem for me. It looked really, really, really interesting. I can't wait to see where we go with it. I have a lot of unwavering faith in BioWare as you do, mm-hmm. and I believe they'll make this something to stand out and something to enjoy.
Sure.
Right, so what have you got?
Yeah, so I've kind of struggled with having a little tongue twist in here. I struggled with making my picks because since there wasn't a whole lot, like a lot of this was just kind of like rehash things, like giving us updates
and featuring things that only kind of got mentioned,
or add-ons, or so on and so forth. So I struggled a little bit, but I think mine's a little different than what I would think I would pick. So of course I'm gonna throw in the Shantae because I freaking love those games, and I'm just completely excited to.
At this point in the game, you don't need to express why you are excited about Shantae.
The main one that really caught me off guard, I think, then would be Shadow of the Colossus Remake.
That was
just because I didn't expect that. And
right out of left field, yeah.
A lot of times those are the ones that really, like, when you have zero expectations and all of a sudden they're like, hey, check this out. It's like,
yeah,
bam, wow.
Well, hype just creates unrealistic expectations because your mind just goes wild with potential. So you're almost always setting yourself up for disappointment.
Yeah,
so when you're not expecting something at all and then you see it, it's nothing but wonder and excitement.
Right, pretty much. Then, I don't know, my number 1 spot for what I'm most excited about is kind of a tough. I'm actually going to kind of make it a tie. So I thought Anthem. I'm really interested to see more about Anthem.
Yeah.
Just like you said, BioWare. This is, from my understanding, it's like the main BioWare team, which doesn't mean much anymore since a lot of the writers for the other series have left.
The Remnant team. They should be called Remnant team.
But I'm really interested to see more of Anthem. I mean, I love BioWare. I hope it's going to be on the level of all the other BioWare games.
Yeah, my excitement wasn't even it's added to because it's BioWare, but it just looks that interesting. It looks really cool, and it's something that I could really get into. And then it's BioWare.
Yes.
So then I'm like, my attention is right on it right now. So I'll be paying attention to it until I see a little bit more details, and then I will ignore it until it's out and buy it.
Yeah. And then I think I'm going to tie tie that with the last night, just because I really want to see more of this game. They really sold me on the art style. I absolutely love pixel art. And when each image looks like a work of art of just that pixel goodness backed with that retro, electronic, whatever, 80s themed music. It's
the chiptune-y
ooh,
synthetic.
man. I'm stoked to see more. I'm having some high hopes.
Honorable mention is how pumped I am for Cuphead finally coming out.
Yes.
Out of all the games coming out on my list, I want to play that one the most, I would say.
Yeah, I think I can agree with you on that.
That was more just a release announcement, so I can't really say wasn't really a big feature.
Yeah.
There's just some nice tidbit.
Yeah, and a lot of the other games that were just kind of updates on where they're at, like I could have picked them. I'm excited about so many of these games.
Oh yes.
But I think at the top is going to be the four that I mentioned, just because.
Yeah,
Shantae, of course, but then the other ones because there's something new that I need to see more.
Yeah, we pretty much expressed how we feel about all the ones that we felt were standouts. So
yeah,
it's a good way to cap it off.
Yes.
So I think
overall, final thoughts. How do you feel about this year's E3?
It's not.
It wasn't
last year's,
2016 E3.
It wasn't 2016 E3 where I was like almost needing an adult diaper.
Yeah.
But some people had some developers and Nintendo especially had more to show. Some of the companies had a way better E3. I'd say Nintendo definitely stepped it up. They got something to be excited in besides Zelda.
Yes.
Whereas Zelda was pretty much their ace in the hole last year, and that was about it.
Yep.
So from certain standpoints, it was a lot better. But the two that usually top it off were kind of a little meh, honestly, to be compared to other years.
Yeah.
That's not saying that they showed fuck all, but it's hard to declare a winner of E3.
Yeah.
Everybody won this year. Everyone gets a participant badge.
Pretty much. That's
good
the way
job,
I see it.
team.
It's more.
Everyone announced video games, and that's what we're here for. So.
Yeah, and basically, I think I share similar sentiments. I think less of the goofy try hard, like let's force the audience to be excited with these goofy ass presentations.
Come on, guys! Look at these motion controls. Look at this other
they still
bullshit.
They still did some of those, and
but it definitely wasn't on the level of other years where it's been like, oh my god, show another game, please get this guy off the stage.
Right. So, overall, just not as big as many like out of the blue announcements like last year, but we just talked about how many games, and like almost all of these games, like I'm like, I want to get that game and play that game.
It's either I need it now or I'm keeping an eye on you.
Yes.
Nothing really. Who cares?
Right.
Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty were probably about that for me.
Yeah.
Those, of course, those are here. Those are just the expecteds.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So.
It was a good game, but nothing amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So I think with that said, then, just because of the length of the podcast, we're going to kind of breeze over some of the usual closing segments. I think we'll hold off on talking about upcoming game releases, but
that's all what we talked about.
I mean, essentially. So good point. I didn't even think about that.
From the get-go, we've been doing our outro. And if you've held on this long,
we're almost there.
Super thumbs up to you.
Yeah. But real quickly, I would like us to still kind of talk about any particular plans coming up in the next couple weeks?
I would love to sit down,
Place it.
grab a controller, and play a video game.
Yes.
I've gotten an amazing amount of new releases or near new releases lately that desperately need my attention, and I am giving it my all. My new job should be starting within the next week or two, hopefully, if everything falls into place. So that will give me potentially a lot more time to game.
Yeah.
So everybody keep your fingers crossed for me.
Yes. We need some more hashtag I stand with corpse flood and people changing their Facebook pictures with a Canadian flag. or their
My day for corpse flood. A day where he has to work no jobs.
yes.
Everyone just
One like equals one prayer.
I need your prayers. I need people volunteering to cover 15 minutes of my work day, and then so I can duck out and play games.
Yes. Yes.
Human chain. Let's form a human chain.
We can do it. We can do it. Yeah, so on my end, I think it's mostly probably just going to be Horizon Zero Dawn, and a little bit of Friday the 13th here and there. I actually heard in Friday the 13th, of course, as you hit levels, you can unlock other characters, alternate outfits for the characters, different versions of Jason. And
Is
then
there an NES version?
No.
Where he's like blue and green like that?
Unfortunately not.
That would have been great.
But there's these things called Pamela tapes that in the 60 hours that I put in the Friday the 13th, I haven't found any of these. And the rumor was that they would just show up randomly, like when you're searching through drawers for gear in your games.
Yeah.
And right now it seems like that these Pamela tapes only show in the game on Fridays. So I might try to taper off my Friday the 13th to only playing on Fridays so I could potentially find these. But at the same time, I've played 2 Fridays, and the last 2 Fridays that I've played, I've actually had like no other plans with friends or with my fiance, so I got a good chunk of time in, and I still haven't found any of these tapes, and there's like 13 of them or something.
But was it enough time on these Fridays?
Maybe not.
There's only 24 hours in a day on Friday.
Yeah. But so who knows? Maybe I'll find some of those. But I think that's primarily it for game stuff. Might potentially have an opportunity to play the Dark Souls board game again this weekend, but I don't know if that's going to happen. It's kind of up in the air right now.
I'd like to at least crack into one of my like quick to play games, like a Tekken. I got Tekken 7.
Yeah.
I got a game that we talked about being very curious about with Prey.
Yes.
I got really good deals on those games. I really like to crack the plastic and try those out. Not to mention a bunch of other stuff I picked up recently. It's just piling up, and it's almost depressing. Having my first world problem of first world problems.
Yes. Yeah, I feel your pain.
Being able to afford the games, but not being able to afford time to play the games.
You know, our struggles are subjective, so nobody can judge us.
Yeah.
Well, they could, but we don't care.
Yeah. Comment your disappointment in us.
Yes. So, with that, if you do want to comment on your disappointment with us, I'll let you know how you can get a hold of us. Various methods. So, usually mention it, but the podcast is by default always uploaded onto SoundCloud, which makes it available on all podcast apps. So you can, of course, look us up on SoundCloud. If you are listening on SoundCloud, you will see links to our channels, to our Facebooks, and to my Twitter on the left-hand side. And then, of course, you can look us up on YouTube, me as the Game Grinder on YouTube, on Facebook, and at @the_Game Grinder on Twitter. And you can look up Corpse Flood on YouTube and Facebook as well.
Hell yeah. Hit me up.
And also, I know a lot of people are starting to listen to the podcast on YouTube, and I just want to say thank you for that. It seems like that might be the preferred method besides maybe podcast apps. And I appreciate everybody who has been commenting. I know YouTube makes it a little easier, and we very, very much appreciate the feedback and the comments. Of course, as always, we would love to hear your thoughts, especially on some of this E3 thing. Were we off base on any of our opinions? Am I a horrible, horrible person for not loving everything Nintendo?
Did we miss any awesome-looking games that we skipped over?
Yeah, because there's definitely more.
I mean, what the hell's our problem? We missed that game that you're thinking of.
Yes. Let us know and tell us. But be nice, sort of. You don't have to be nice. Just leave feedback.
Be passive-aggressive.
There you go.
It would have been great if you guys had just...
But, of course, as always, we really appreciate any comments, just let us know. Let us know your thoughts, whatever. Just tell us about your day. If you don't care about the podcast, we hope you listen to it at least. But
listen to it out of routine, even.
Throw it on the background, when you're doing some cleaning, whatever.
You're doing some vacuuming, even. We don't care. Just to know that someone cared enough to click on it. We're happy.
Yes. But no, seriously, we appreciate any and all feedback that you give. And so I guess with that said, that will do it for this episode of the Game Tenants Podcast.
I bid you adieu.
Good night, everybody.
I said good day, sir.
I said good night. All right. Later.